Color neutral. Yeah, so I started this transition on August of this year from white cross to color neutral, and I'd say I'm doing pretty decent so far. I was averaging about mid 11s during August, and since I felt like that was about the fastest you could average at the time, with color neutral being actually worth it. Well, at least this is what I thought at the time. Currently, I'm averaging mid to low 10s with color neutral, and I would say borderline sub 10 with white cross. But even then, I'll definitely stick with color neutral. So the approaches, there are two approaches on being color neutral, with the first one, well, just being color neutral and suddenly doing all crosses at the same time. And this one you could see less improvement, but you could improve equally on each color, which is better for the long run. And the second one is just learning one color at a time. This one, you could see improvements more clearly, and it's much less demotivating than the first one. So I started with the second approach, which is learning one color at a time first. And I people said you could see much more improvement, and I was averaging about 13 to 14 on each of the colors and 11 on white, and I wasn't really improving that much. And since this wasn't really a good approach, so I just switched to the first one. And I did like a few thousand solves on the next few weeks, and I would say the first one is just better for me, and I was seeing a lot more improvement. I improved from about 13 to 14 to about like mid 11s within about a little less than a month, which I feel like was pretty good. And I also improved my white cross from mid 11s to I would say like high 10s maybe. I also feel like the first approach is better because you could actually try to find the color you want to do, because if you just use the second approach, you aren't really learning how to find the best cross, because you're kind of forced to do, like, if you're learning orange, you could only do orange, and it's not really good for finding your cross. And on the topic of finding crosses, I would also say planning first pair is kind of my motivation to go for a color neutral, because at about this stage from sub 12 to being sub 10, you really want to learn how to plan your first pair, but that's not really that easy if you're only doing white cross, and the move count is generally higher than if you use color neutral, and it would be harder to plan your first pair. So I also switched because kind of this reason. The move count, I think they say it your average move count goes from 5.8 moves with only one cross color to about 4.8 if you use color neutral. And it's only one move, but it's also a lot if you want to plan your first pair. So, is becoming color neutral worth it? And should you become color neutral? Well, I would say it kind of depends on what you average. If you average like 15, 20, 25, or even more, it's definitely worth it because you aren't that used to the color scheme, and it's much better to transition at this time because, well, it would just be easier because you don't have to, you're not that used to the color scheme anyways. If you average about 10 to 15 seconds, it's kind of your last chance. It's also a great opportunity to learn to plan your first pair. But if you're faster than that, you would waste a lot more time getting used to the color scheme, and it just depends on you. Since being color neutral will always better than, well, not being color neutral, it's just if it's worth the time and effort you put into it. What's interesting is if you look at the top 10 3x3 averages, half of them are from China and half of them are not. And I think the Chinese cubers are all dual color neutral, and the non-Chinese cubers are all color neutral. This is pretty interesting. I don't know why that's happening, but it's just a trend that's going on. And I've heard that some people like Timon, they're color neutral, but also kind of just a little bit better on white and yellow. And if it's not a really good cross on other colors, white or yellow is just what they pick. This is also a pretty decent way to become color neutral, since you don't have to put in that much effort, because you could still be a little bit better on white or yellow. But again, it's all up to you if you want to become color neutral or not. And yeah, that's all I have to say for today. If you want to become color neutral, definitely just go for it. It's not that hard if you actually want. Drop a like and sub if you want. Yeah, bye bye.